It's December and time for holiday celebrations. This year marks about 160 celebrations for Christmas in Canton. August Linderman settled in the area in the 1860s. The community was thought to be geographically located on the opposite side of the globe from Canton, China, the town's namesake. Happy holidays and welcome to Dakota Life with greetings from Canton. Canton is the county seat for Lincoln County. It was one of the first towns in Dakota Territory, and it became a gathering place for settlers in the Sioux River Valley. And it still is today. The community just added a new performing arts center connected to the high school. Just north of town is the Canton Barn. It's the scene of wedding parties and family gatherings. And just a few more miles north, people gather for events throughout the year at the Riverview Tree Farm. But it's December. That makes it extra special as people travel from miles around to pick out their Christmas tree.
Yeah, I kind of always been a Christmas nut, and my mom instilled that in me since I was really young. And it's about 7 years ago we were out getting our tree here, and Kaiser was helping us load it in the back of the truck. And I jokingly said to him, "When you're ready to retire, give me a call." And we both laughed. I think we both thought it was a joke. And then my phone rang a couple months later, and it got real. So.
Reality, yes. But for Todd Gannon, taking over the Riverview Christmas Tree Farm 5 years ago from Bill and Darlene Kaiser was not unfamiliar. He grew up nearby, and he worked there through high school and college.
You know, at that time, we didn't know it was just a joke, kind of just us ribbing each other back and forth. But it's a pretty big honor to have them trust us with their legacy. As they started planting their first trees in 1983, and I was 1 year old when they planted their first trees. So to have them hand that over to our family to carry on means a lot.
It also means a lot of work throughout the year, all leading up to the holidays.
Tree farming is definitely one of the most challenging types of farming there is. I've grown up around agriculture, and I farm with my brother corn and soybeans. Trees are a very unique challenge to grow. A lot of people think you put them in the ground and you just wait a few years and they're ready to go, and that's far from the truth. Every tree takes about 8 to 10 years to get ready here on the farm. We figure every tree has between 50 and 60 hand interactions before it's ready. So we plant about 3,000 trees a year. And every year after that, we have to hand groom those trees. So trimming the tops to make sure you have that single leader, shearing the trees into that perfect Christmas tree shape, deconing trees. You have to pick off the cones that grow on them. There's a lot of manual labor that goes into it. Weed control is a significant issue, all the way up until the trees are cut down, and then we have to pull stumps and get the stumps out of the field. So lots and lots of manual labor that goes into creating that great Christmas tree.
But is there a perfect tree?
Fraser firs are definitely a all-time favorite for a tree, but we offer a lot of different species of trees out here. And I guess the one thing I've learned from growing them is there's no perfect tree to grow. Every tree has things that are very easy about it to grow and things that make it challenging to grow. I guess if we could combine them all, maybe we could make a real easy tree to grow, but that hasn't been done yet.
While shoppers are trying to find their perfect tree, they can enjoy the beauty of the Sioux River Valley, Santa, cider in the gift shop, holiday music, and a petting zoo. The Gannons have also added another reason to visit. They've revived the Riverview Pumpkin Festival.
Yeah, we started the Pumpkin Festival the first year we bought the tree farm. Kaiser's had done kind of a small festival years and years ago, and that was one of the first things customers asked us when we bought the farm, if we were going to bring the Pumpkin Festival back. So I told my wife, let's give it a try. We'll start small. And she laughed and she said, sure we will, because she knows me better than that. And we went all in the first year with the Pumpkin Festival, and it's really growing. So it's not just choose a pumpkin. We have live music and a beer and wine garden, inflatables for the kids, petting zoo, train rides, all kinds of fall crafts, pumpkin painting, pumpkin slingshot. I mean, there is tons to do here during the Pumpkin Festival. And we probably see 10 to 15,000 people come out here in 3 weekends in October.
And then in late November, when the trees are ready, the real hard work begins, choosing a tree.
Yeah, making that decision can be really tough, and I've been there with my family too before, where you wander around. Sometimes you can wander around for a couple hours, and it always seems that you end up back at the very first tree that you thought you should cut down.
But that's part of the fun, and an experience the Gannons hope is made even better with the help of their family and their friends.
Every single employee that works for us is either family or a close family friend or I coach high school football in Canton, so we get a bunch of the football players out here. But really everybody that works here for us and helps us out has kind of a personal connection with the farm, and that really helps create a great experience for our customers.
Riverview Tree Farm has thousands of trees planted, and each will grow into a Christmas centerpiece over the next decade. From the tree farm south to Canton and beyond, the Sioux River cuts deeper into the hillside. In fact, on a slope just east of Canton, the national ski jump champion was crowned in 1925, 30, and 35, and the Olympic trials were held on that hill in 1932. And Canton is the gateway to summer camping or winter snowshoeing through the picturesque Newton Hills State Park. Well, you never know if there will be a white Christmas, but you can always count on holiday lights. Jacob Richards is a 10-year-old in Sioux Falls who's enthralled with holiday displays. He's got quite a knack for it, creating scenes that he hopes everyone will enjoy.
Well, I think all of us probably have fond memories of driving around seeing the neighborhood Christmas lights. Granted, that's changed a lot since when I was a kid.
Jeremy Richards has passed that enthusiasm to his son Jacob. They started seeking out more elaborate light shows like the one at the Western Mall in Sioux Falls. Inspiration struck now 10-year-old Jacob, so he did what any good-natured, imaginative kid would do.
I went to my dad and asked him if I could create a light show, and he said, we'll try it.
Yeah, I would say he was probably actually about between 4 and 5 years old.
Welcome to Jacob's Light Show!
They cut out a cardboard castle and set up a display in the basement as a nod to Jacob's inspiration. And he kept building from there.
And we started to do the outdoor light show the last couple of years.
First year is like bushes over there and some of the icicle lights up there, some of the wreaths, and had an outline of the window over there, and that was pretty much it.
If Jacob just designed the light display, that would already be remarkable. However, this isn't his grandfather's display. The thing that really captivated the young man at his favorite show was that the lights were also set to music.
Well, my dad watched the videos and he learned off of that, and then he taught me how to do it. I was just began getting really better at programming, and I could do a whole song in about 2 months. But this year, I can do it a lot faster.
The Richards family upped their game by adding more props and switching over to pixel lights, a style of illumination that allows the user to program individual bulbs.
The scary thing for me is I kind of knew how to do the program last year. It's pretty easy, pretty simple. This year, it's a lot more sophisticated, a lot harder. Honestly, I don't understand any of it yet. So he's done all the programming, done really all that himself. That is one thing where YouTube has been great.
Jeremy has been the prop man, building set pieces for the exhibit. A lot of work goes into this project, but he doesn't hesitate to do it again each year.
And then we figured, well, this would be a great opportunity to him to learn something new, and I don't know where it's going to take him. You know, maybe he could be a programmer down the road.
Jacob's motivation is pure. This is fun stuff for him. He says this is also an opportunity to inspire kids while celebrating this holiday season.
I encourage kids to follow their dreams, and they don't have to do a light show. They can do something else. But I'm just doing this to wish people Merry Christmas and say Jesus is King and just get in the Christmas spirit.
Holiday scenes, lights, and displays give each of us a chance to brighten up our homes for the holidays. Our host community here in Canton is home to just over 3,000. The main street through town is Highway 18. On the west edge is Adams Manufacturing, a major employer for the area. It takes you through town by the Lincoln County Courthouse and many small businesses and antique shops downtown, and then east past the Canton Inwood Hospital, 4-H grounds, and Hiawatha Golf Course. The holidays turn arts and crafts into many family small businesses. A pop-up holiday boutique brings crafters and shoppers together in what's become a holiday tradition just up the road in Sioux Falls.
Chantel Olson is a painter. She makes affirmation stickers and prints, but now uses a digital platform to create. Her mom, Penny, creates by building things. Chantel says they complement each other and have been a team since Chantel was a teenager.
She used to pay me to paint for her when I was in high school. And then I went to college 2 years for pre-law and called her one day and said, Mom, I want to do what you do. That was like, I think I was 19 when that happened. Now I'm 43 and we've been doing it together since. We're a true family business.
Art Moms began as a way to support other small businesses and show off talented makers in the community. She thinks that was 18 years ago.
One time we were like, let's just rent a building, and I think we started out with maybe 10 to 12 people, and we just did this, and I think maybe for a 2-week time frame. And then it just grew to this, and now we have more makers than we've ever had. And like I said, our main goal is to just show these people off. There's so much talent around our area, and right now supporting small and local is so important.
The location of the pop-up has moved around, usually on 41st Street. This year, the pop-up boutique showcases 47 makers. Katie Buckery is one of them. She makes women's accessories and jewelry. She says she's always been creative and started making jewelry as a way to lower her stress.
I had been working in banking, and this gal I knew that I was crafty and creative and asked me to make a bunch of jewelry pieces out of her grandmother's old jewelry, like costume jewelry. So this gal had passed away and she wanted something to do with all of her jewelry and gift it to each one of her nieces and nephews, things like that. So I made this hoard of jewelry and was like, oh, I really like this. I really like doing this. So it kind of stemmed from that and proceeded into all sorts of different things, necklaces, earrings.
Katie has jewelry for sale in other locations, but joins the pop-up boutique every year because it's a holiday tradition.
This pop-up shop is something that everybody looks forward to and is a way for local makers to sell their wares and get the community involved in local art.
When a maker is selected for Art Moms, Chantel says they look for a wide selection without doubling up. And she says the price point is key.
We want people to be able to walk in and afford the stuff they like. We don't want people to walk in and go, oh, I can only buy one thing. We want people to walk in and make piles because they can and buy gifts.
And during this year of a pandemic, they considered not opening. Chantel still wonders if it's a good idea.
So in August, when we set the dates, I said if the numbers are as bad as they are, I'm canceling it. Well, our numbers are triple of what they were in August. And about 2-3 weeks ago, I had I don't know if it was a panic attack, a little anxiety, I don't know how we can do this. With the numbers going on, we've been in our bubble, we've been safe, and now it's I feel like we're going into the lion's den. And then I thought of our makers. Everything's been canceled this year. Every art show, stores, we're all little businesses. And I was like, if we can take precautions, be safe, make masks mandatory, sanitize everywhere, do our best to social distance, we're just gonna hope for the best and make it work.
While it is a business, for Chantel and her mom, it's more than that.
I used to feel really braggy when I would say, you have to come because it's so amazing. And now, after 18 times, it is just one of those things that I feel like we grew from the ground up. And we're so proud of it, and we're so proud of our makers. And when we see people come in, all day yesterday on our opening day, people would come in and were graciously thanking us. Thank you so much for having this during this time. We need some happy, we need an escape, we need a safe place to go. And it's just to me, the tradition of having customers come in that we know their faces, we know their names, we know their children, that's huge for a family business.
A pop-up craft boutique will always bring holiday shoppers in to fill their gift list. While gathering together has been a challenge this year, people in Canton worship together at 10 community churches, including Canton's Lutheran Church, built in 1908. The Ministerial Association meets once a month, and local pastors and youth directors work together and bring people together of all faiths to worship several times a year. A house of worship on the edge of Rapid City is also a popular tourist destination, as the faithful and visitors admire the spectacular architecture. The Chapel in the Hills was built as an exact reproduction of the famous Borgund Stavkirke of Lirdal, Norway.
The Chapel in the Hills was built here in 1969, and it was actually a dream of two men. Pastor Harry Gregerson was doing a radio broadcast called Lutheran Vespers in Sioux Falls, and over the years he had many people responding to him, wanting to see where Lutheran Vespers was being recorded. And at that time it was in the basement of his home, so they wanted to find a home for that. So the idea came of building the Stavkirke, and they had to contact the Norwegian government, and they were willing to give us the plans provided we agreed to make it an exact replica. So this is an exact replica of the Borgund Church in Norway. The other man who was majorly involved in this project was Art Dahl, who was a banker in town. And he chose to be the person who was going to finance the whole project. So he bought the land for this building, and he paid for the construction of the chapel. A lot of the carving pieces, like the ones that are outside the door, the crosses you see up above, and also some of the smaller pieces were actually crafted by a craftsman in Norway. They wanted to be sure they were perfect, and they didn't know of anybody in town who was able to do that type of carving, and so that's what they were able to do. What the chapel has been doing over the years is it's been a mission place for people to come and visit the chapel, obviously, just to see this structure and the grounds, but also it's been a place of worship. So we do worship services every evening in the summer months. This year, with the pandemic going on, we decided to do an online service, kind of going back to what it was at one time with the radio broadcast. We are going to be doing the second, third, and fourth Sunday in Advent. We'll be doing a service, and then also on Christmas Eve. Norway is probably one of the biggest countries as far as the number of visitors coming here, but we usually tally this every year to know the exact figures, but we get many international people, and they are all just intrigued at finding this here in South Dakota.
Stunning architecture and craftsmanship are the hallmark of the Chapel in the Hills. As a community since the 1860s, Canton has its share of historic architecture too, from the Kennedy Mansion to a more infamous asylum set aside for Native Americans. Augustana College, at the time an academy or prep school, called Canton home, as have a world-famous TV host, a well-known regional author, and Nobel Prize-winning physicist. All is revealed and more as we tour Canton through the years.
It's easy to see that the city of Canton has a lot going on these days. It's the seat of one of the fastest growing counties in South Dakota. There's an industrial park. It's the hub of the local ag industry. But you can also tell that at one time Canton was thriving in a very different way. When the crowd of mostly Scandinavian immigrants began moving into the area in the 1870s and 1880s, they found established businesses in town set up mostly by what they called Yankees from back east, including one C.B. Kennedy, a lawyer, judge, banker, and landowner whose legacy as a mover and shaker in Canton's early days is still visible in the form of a mansion he had built in 1886. The Kennedy Mansion was restored in the 1990s and remains a private residence. Canton also gained some prosperity from the spin-off revenue of a federally funded hospital. The Hiawatha Asylum for Insane Indians, as it was called, was built in 1903 as the nation's only institution dedicated to caring for Native Americans deemed insane. Some 400 Native men and women were held there over its 30 years of operation. In 1933, amidst charges of gross mismanagement, federal authorities shut the asylum down and transferred its remaining residents to a hospital in Washington, D.C. The site of the asylum is now a golf course. All that's left is an isolated cemetery where the remains of some of the 121 Native people known to have died at the hospital are interred. Several very well-known people have called Canton home at various times. Nobel Prize-winning physicist Ernest O. Lawrence was born there. He's best known for inventing the cyclotron, a particle accelerator that led to the discovery of plutonium, but also led to advances in medical imaging and many other beneficial technologies. Merle Tuve was a childhood friend of Lawrence's, and he also made a name for himself in science. Tuve's experiments with radio waves led to the development of radar. Canton was also the first South Dakota home of Augustana College, now known as Augustana University. As the oldest post-secondary school in South Dakota, Augustana had an exceptionally rich history even before it was moved to Sioux Falls in 1918. Part of that history includes an affiliated prep school that operated in Canton between 1884 and 1971. Students at Augustana Academy experienced a type of schooling that was and still is rare in this part of the country.
The obvious thing is that it was a boarding school for high school age kids. During that time, parents sent their 13, 14, 15-year-old kids away to live 9.5 months of the year away from home. So really, Augustana Academy and the people there became your home and your family. The other thing was you got a very intense, good education. We got a very Christian education. It was owned by was started by the Norwegian American Lutheran Church back in 1860 in Illinois, and went through the mergers, and it moved across country. It said it followed the Norwegian immigrants till it got to Canton in the 1880s.
The Augustana Academy sports teams were always competitive and sometimes highly ranked, but Augustana Academy was better known for a different type of extracurricular activity.
The calling card and the fame of Augustana Academy was really its music program. We had a lot of students came to Augustana Academy for the express purpose of singing in the choir.
Augustana Academy's better-known graduates include Ole E. Rolvag, best known for the book Giants in the Earth. Originally written in Norwegian, it's a vivid and dark story about the lives of an immigrant family homesteading in eastern Dakota Territory during the 1870s. Augustana Academy graduate Mary Harum went on to a different sort of fame. She was a member of the class of 1968, was named Miss South Dakota in 1970, and made the top 10 in the 1971 Miss America pageant. After a time doing local TV talk programs, she moved to Los Angeles, where in 1982 she was named co-host of Entertainment Tonight, TV's longest-running entertainment, business, and celebrity gossip program. Hart left the show in 2011. With a dark chapter or two, the architectural reminders of a gilded age on the prairie, and some accomplished sometime residents, Canton has its share of remarkable history, and maybe even a bit more than its share.
First settlers came to Canton by way of wagon, but in 1880, tracks were laid for the Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Paul, and Pacific Railroad. The original Canton Depot is now restored. It's the location for the Visitor Center and Chamber of Commerce. Matter of fact, I recall an elementary school outing with my classmates riding the passenger train from here back to Sioux Falls. There isn't passenger service anymore, but the rail line in Canton is still vital to the ag community. Overall, Lincoln County is evolving. A third of the residents live inside the Sioux Falls city limits, and communities like Harrisburg and Tea are booming. The Canton area is doing just fine. Still has a strong Norwegian heritage, and residents here will tell you it feels a lot like home. There are more stories all about the hometowns across the state and the other stories we cover at sdpb.org/Dakota Life. Happy holidays from all of us here at South Dakota Public Broadcasting.